Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Podcast with Dana, Tom and Matt. This is the transfer window review show where we'll be delving in on Boro's summer business and what we think of the squad now that the window is shut. We will start then by just recapping Boro's summer business. In terms of incomings, 11 actually, senior additions for the Boro: Alfie Jones, Callum Britton, Abdullah Kante, Sancho Hansen, Sfia Nipan, Adilson Malanda, who will of course join in January, Matt Targett, Cali Sen, David Strellik, John McLaughlin, and Alan Brown. And then in regards to outgoings, Boro released Anthony Dijksteel and Johnny Howson in pre-season. They sold Josh Coburn, Rav van den Berg, and Finn Azaz. They loaned out Neto Borges, Marcus Force, and Dan Barlaser. And they also released Tom Glover on deadline day. Guys, in terms of Boro's summer business, what did you make of it in the end? I'm going to start with Matt for this one.
Yeah, I'm really happy, to be honest. I think considering where we were a few weeks into the window, we were looking around and we were the only one of only three teams who'd not made a signing. The other two were Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester, who had, a ton of off the field problems. And I think naturally, following the season we'd had, the change in manager, there was a lot of pessimism and negativity around as it was. So to fast forward to now and to see the business we've done, I'm very, very happy. I think we've added across all areas. I think our net spend's relatively low. We've let go top assets who didn't want to be here, but we've kept the most important one who thankfully is still here and will make a massive, massive difference. And I think, there's still, we'll get into it. There's still a few areas where we could have done better. I guess you always can do in a transfer window, but I think from where we were to where we are, how we've bolstered the squad, and I think we've pretty much got the majority of our number one targets. We've been patient. It's paid off. I'm struggling to think of too many ways to which the recruitment team could have done better this window. I'm really, really delighted with how we've come out of the window, both with the incomings and the outgoings.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm looking at the list at the moment, and I just think it has been a very successful window. I can understand the maybe panic at the start of the window. I think football fans in general just aren't the most patient people. So when we're looking at a club not making any signings, and playing the long game and being patient and sticking to our valuation both on incomings and outgoings, I can understand why people were getting a bit kind of tetchy at the start of the window. But you look at the list, we've strengthened in the areas we needed to strengthen in. And then looking at who's gone out, you're looking at the likes of like Dijksteel, Coburn, Force, Barlaser. Generally, and I don't take joy from saying it, but like you'd look at like social media conversations, forum threads and stuff like that last year. People would list them and Glover, to be fair, as like depth players who weren't good enough, and we needed to move them on. So then you look at who we brought in and who's kind of replaced them. I think we've come out with the window with genuine strength and depth, and obviously that's only going to improve in January when Malanda comes in. But overall, I would say very, very good window.
Yeah, good in the end, wasn't it? Exactly what you were saying there, both of you actually. We really started pretty slowly, and by the time that we recorded our season preview, actually, we'd only signed one player, and that was Alfie Jones. But I'm looking at the players that we brought in. It's a really good blend, actually, because you've got your experienced championship performers in Jones, Britton, Targett, and Brown, and then you've supplemented it with exciting signings that firstly could be good in terms of performance, but also Boro's next asset. And of course, as fans, we don't really want to look at players as assets, but football is a business at the end of the day, and Boro have to produce and become self-sustainable. But back on a performance kind of basis, I like it. I like the blend, particularly up front. We've got a lot of different profiles. We've got a little bit of technical quality with the likes of Strellik and Hansen. And then you've got Sen, who's quick and physical, and Nipan as well adds to that technical quality if you want to consider him as a number 10. So it's all a very good blend, and I'm intrigued to see how it all plays out. but I like it. And then in terms of the outgoings as well, yeah, disappointing to lose assets like Rav and Azaz. But they've actually been a really key player in something else that Boro have enjoyed in this window, which was keeping Hayden Hackney. So we've done necessary business, and I think in the end we fleshed out the squad really well, actually. So credit to the recruitment team for that, because they had me in the first half. I'm not going to lie. I thought that we were massively underprepared, but Rob Edwards said it, like, trust these guys. And in the end, I think, yeah, you can tell exactly why he said that, because they've actually delivered in the end. How would both of you rate the squad or the summer business, sorry, out of 10 then?
I'd go with a 9 just because I'd never give it a 10 because I'm that guy. I never, it's nothing's ever perfect. And I guess there was always room to improve. And I guess, maybe had we got Max Sarvston in at left wing back, that would have been another one of our top targets who we'd managed to get, through the door. So maybe that's an area where we're not as strong as we would have liked. I also look at the goalkeeping department, and I still think there's maybe a bit of work done there. I think maybe if we'd have gotten Glover and Dieng out and replaced both of them, that would have maybe been better. I do think that's an area that still needs addressing. Although I do think McLaughlin seems like a very solid, experienced addition, and I do think is an upgrade on Glover. Sonny Dieng being our backup goalkeeper, coming from someone who was once the chairman of the Sonny Dieng fan club. I mean, it's been quite the arc.
I was thinking that.
It's been quite the arc. I don't feel particularly comfortable with that, and from what we understand, the club were looking to offload Dieng as well. So that's an area where I think still needs improving. And if I was to ask the question of if Bryn got another shoulder injury tomorrow, would I feel 100% comfortable in that position? I'd probably say no. But other than that, you look at the defence, the options we've got at centre half. The fact we're going to be topping it up with Malander in January, I'm getting more excited by that as the weeks go by. The more I see him in the MLS getting plonked on a throne with a man of the match crown dropped on his head, I'm just getting more and more excited as the weeks go by. But yeah, wing backs was a big area where we needed to address. I think we've done that. I think maybe Silvera could come across and cover for Britain if needed. And then obviously, we've got the best midfield in the championship still, and I think we've raised the floor in that area with Brown coming in, and the attacking areas I think is full of, as you said, the versatility, different options. 3 different centre forwards who all give us something different, all excite me in different ways, and I think we've got a good blend in behind them with the 10s as well. So yeah, I can't think of many ways to which it could have been better. There is just 1 or 2 areas where if I was being picky, I would have liked a bit more. But as I said, from where we were to where we are now, absolutely delighted. I think 9's a fair rating.
Sonny Dieng fan club. Never nail your colours to the mast like that with a player, Matt. I mean, I did that with my George Friend fan page, but thankfully I picked a good player there in George Friend. But yeah, Tom, how would you rate Boro's transfer business out of 10?
Yeah, I was kind of torn coming into this between 9 and 10. I'm probably going to go 9 because I think Matt's just managed to sway me with a couple of things he said there. I mean, firstly, in terms of, not bringing in Max Sarvston, not that, I was necessarily thinking it has to be him because, let's be honest, the majority of Boro fans, if not all, hadn't heard of him before this window. So this isn't me saying like, oh, it had to be him. It didn't. But what I would have liked to have been a little bit more comfortable at wing back in case of, touch wood, any injuries. So if we, find ourselves without Callum Britton for a couple of games, or I think Target and Silvera can switching out on the left. And to be fair, Silvera can probably cover on the right as well. It's just maybe would have liked a little bit more cover there, and probably the same in goal. But other than that, like I say, it was a very strong window. We've brought in genuine strength and depth in areas as well, and we've done it on a relatively low, if not balanced out net spend. I'd have to find somewhere that's done all the calculations properly on that. But that is ultimately part of the remit for the recruitment team and Kieran Scott as well. You need to do it while being self-sufficient, and we did that last season as well. Spent 19 million in the summer and then brought all the money back in January. That's where the latter laughs money is gone. So if I have to hear one person, complaining about where's that gone again, I think I'll probably bang my head off the desk, because no understanding of how finances work there. But this season as well. I mean, I know I wasn't on the podcast where it kind of first broke, but I know the majority of people on the pod weren't necessarily thrilled about Azaz going, but I think that's maybe opened the door for Strellik and then anyone else that we brought in kind of towards the end of the window. Ultimately, you've got to kind of find that balance, and I think from letting two assets go in Vandenberg and Azaz, we've brought in multiple new players who could become bigger assets for us in the future, and that's ultimately how you kind of keep growing. So yeah, I think financially, really good window. In terms of squad building, really good window. Maybe a couple of areas still to work on in terms of building that team, but other than that, it was quality window.
I would agree with you too. I would go with a 9. My reasoning for not giving a 10 is slightly different though. I would say just with the likes of Jones, Britton, Target and Brown, I can depend on these guys to perform more often than not. They're your solid foundation level players, really. The type of players that you need in your squad just to raise the floor a little bit. With the likes of Kante, Hansen, maybe Nipan, maybe Strellik, certainly Sen, it's a case of how will they adjust to the championship? How will they fit in and bed into such a cut and thrust league? 46 league games this season. How will they fare? How will their consistency match up? Because the Nijmegen fans said about Hansen in particular that he's an inconsistent player. We are currently looking at Cali Sen, me and Johnny, for a low down. I'm seeing shades of early days Latte Lath with him, where he's a little bit chaotic and his game isn't necessarily refined. Still like the profile of him, still like what he can offer us, but these players are new to the league. With Nipan, slightly different because he's too hyped up to be a flop, and we've seen goodness from him already. We've seen goodness already from Sen, actually. So I just want to see how these players will bed into the championship. They've got potential, sure, but we've been burnt by potential before with our predictions on Boro season and stuff. So I have cautious optimism that they're going to be successful. But whilst I don't have the same type of confidence as the tried and tested championship players like Jones and Britton, Target, more of a Premier League player, and then Alan Brown, I'm reluctant to say that it's a 10 out of 10, but it's still a very, very good window. And again, massive hats off to Kieran Scott, Chris Jones and Steve Gibson for the way that this window has played out in the end. Matt, despite a shared acceptance from pretty much everyone of the Middlesbrough persuasion that Hayden Hackney was going to depart the club this summer, he is still a Middlesbrough player somehow. What's your reaction to that?
It's a mix of shock and delight, to be honest. I think we all, on numerous podcasts, had already accepted and come to terms with the fact that Hayden Hackney was going to be off this summer. It felt obvious. It felt like he'd be the first name out, the biggest name out. And yet here we are. He's still here. And I think a degree of why is because a Premier League bid just simply didn't come. And we need to be grateful for that, because if one had, I do think a Premier League club, if they really, really wanted him, would have coughed up the money. And as strong as the club's stance was, every player has his price. So we do need to, count our lucky stars that didn't happen. But equally, the club were very strong in their stance. I do think it's refreshing to see that. It is probably helped by other key assets being moved out as well. We already spoke about Rav and Azaz, and when the Azaz links emerged at the same time that the Hackney one did, I think it was clear that the club just simply couldn't sell both. Otherwise, there'd have been riots on the streets. And I think that did probably strengthen the club's stance, paired with the fact that nothing just ever came of it, which is really fortunate. But I think both just want to say to Hackney as an individual, he deserves immense credit for how he's dealt with it. He's been incredibly respectful to us as a club. He's not pushed for a move. I'm sure a lot of the murmurings that did come out probably come from his agent trying to maybe make a move happen. But in terms of Hackney as a player, he's continued to play. He's continued to play very, very well and has started the season brilliantly and hasn't forced a move like we've seen a lot, especially certain neighbours up the road with certain footballers. So, yeah, I just want to credit him personally for that. But to still have him is so imperative. It's huge. He's arguably the best midfielder in the Championship, in the best midfield in the Championship. And we've seen already the difference him and Hayden Morris make. And I think Johnny, maybe you and Johnny D, to be fair, put it really well on a pod. You know, you lose a bit of Hayden Morris if you lose Hayden Hackney. So to have them both together and have Hackney in that midfield drastically improves our chances of success this season. So I'm delighted. I'm over the moon. I really though hope this isn't just delaying the inevitable. I still worry January is coming over the horizon already. So we'll see what happens there. But I'd like to think if the club can, or if the team can put us in a good position by January, that will also give us another opportunity to keep him again if we can maybe prove that we are capable of having a chance this season and he can be a Premier League player with Boro in 12 months' time. So that's the hope. That's hopefully where we'll be. But to still have him is amazing. And yeah, credit to Hayden for just being a top professional who loves his football club.
Absolutely buzzing that we've kept Hayden Hackney. Echo your thoughts there, Matt, completely. Boro's best business of the window by far. It supersedes anything that they could have done in terms of incomings, keeping one of the most important components of Middlesbrough Football Club, maybe even the most important component, is exactly what you said there, Matt, imperative. I rate Hayden Hackney so much that he turned down that bid from Ipswich and that wasn't for him. Still really surprised that no Premier League club came in for him, because if you look at our linked list, where we mark and know all of Boro's rumoured incomings and outgoings, his name was on there quite a lot. He was linked to the likes of Man United, Everton, Brentford, Crystal Palace. I think there was Bayern Leverkusen, Stuttgart. There were a lot of teams that were interested in him, obviously Ipswich as well. His name popped up frequently, and yet the fact that only one bid came in and it was from Ipswich, one reported bid anyway that we know of, is really weird. And Graham on email asked us, all Boro supporters seem to view Hayden as a Premier League talent, so why did no Premier League club bid for him? Young English, one of the Championship's best midfielders, only 25 million. Why don't they rate him? What is going on? As I said there, weird that there was no Premier League bid that came in for Hayden Hackney, but so unbelievably glad. It is interesting, we're not the only side that have kept hold of their key asset. Sheffield United kept hold of Gus Harmer. Norwich kept hold of Josh Sargent. And I really think the common denominator between all those teams is that they sold assets. Sheffield United sold Vinny Souza. Norwich sold Marcelino Nunez to Ipswich, of all teams. And then with ourselves, we sold Rav and Azaz, and also Coburn earlier on in the window. So arguably 3 assets there that Boro sold. And I think especially after Azaz, Boro weren't in a position where they could be backed into a corner and reluctant or almost resigned to losing Hayden Hackney, because we were very much in a strong position of we don't need to sell. And so maybe they would have sold if they really got tested with a Premier League bid, but also maybe not, because towards the back end of the window you don't want to lose Hayden Hackney anyway, but not at that time. And also we just didn't need to sell him. So that really played a big part. I'm so unbelievably happy that he is still at Middlesbrough. Echo your fear, if you will, Matt, that he could leave in January, but let's hope not. Let's hope Boro are at the upper reaches of the table and that he just sees out the rest of the season, because losing him in January would be a really just, it would hurt, I think. It would hurt the team. It would hurt me. It would hurt my soul, but it might just happen. You never know. Tom, before deadline day, Neto Borges completed a season-long loan move to Bristol City. Kind of came out of the blue. Were you surprised about that?
Yeah, it did come completely out of the blue. It was like a Randy Orton RKO, honestly. Like, just I
God's
just remember
sake.
being sat there one night, and then it just kind of popped through saying he'd been linked, and then about 10 minutes later, it's official. He's going to Bristol City on loan.
Yeah.
A little bit disappointed. I mean, that's just because he is a very likable character, and I think even more so the fact that he is the third signing that we brought in at left back who just didn't work out, and then ultimately didn't end up fitting this system. Let's not forget we've still got Lucas Engel on our books until Cincinnati decide if they want to take him or not, and then if they don't, he might be coming back as well, and then we've got to be looking at moving Lucas Engel on. But yeah, it came very quickly. To be fair, he's got a loan move to a good club there. Hope he does well. But yeah, ultimately he was going to be about sixth choice centre back, and I don't feel like he would have been happy being sixth choice centre back. So yeah, it had to be done, unfortunately. But yeah, like I say, he's got a good move, and I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't wish him all the best.
Yeah, I was surprised because I completely forgot about Malander. I think when you factor him into the equation, as you said, probably about sixth choice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually seventh choice potentially, centre back. And then you've got Target, Silvera, and Bangura that can play left back or left wing back. And it didn't seem like Rob Edwards actually considered him as a left wing back. I think it made sense actually noting that Malander exists and will be a Boro player in January because, yeah, I don't really see where he fits. And the thing with Neto Borges, you said it perfectly, that in terms of a player and a person, seems like a really, really great guy, really likable character. And I think that, to be fair, when we signed him, a lot of the opinion on him was shaped around how good of a person he is in the dressing room, as well as, of course, his performances on the pitch. So I don't know. I think in the end with Borges, he didn't impress at left wing back, and he was better at left-sided centre back. But there's no real space for him there. You've got to say Jones has started the season really well, and then Lenihan's back now. So I think Lenihan, I've not forgotten how good Lenihan is, despite his injury issues. He's a very good centre back as well. So unfortunately for Neto Borges, I think it was a necessary departure and one that just has had to happen. We are cursed with left backs. We're kind of just cursed with full backs anyway, because the amount of left backs that we've signed, gone.
I was going to say our left back slots like the defense against the dark arse post at Hogwarts. It's a different left back every season.
It actually is. Like, what is it? Lucas Engel. This is since Ryan Giles, and I consider Ryan Giles the last left back that was a success. We've had Bangura, Engel, Luke Thomas, Tom, your absolute favourite. Neto Borges.
Giles again.
Am I missing someone? Yeah, Giles again. Like, we've had so many left backs. Hopefully, Matt Target's the one that breaks the curse. And to be fair, given the way that he started, especially that quality pass for Tommy Conway's goal against Sheffield United, we're on the right tracks at the beginning at least. Sticking with you, Tom. Actually, we'll throw it to Matt. We'll throw it to you, Matt. Marcus Forss and Dan Barlaser were both loaned out on the final day of the window to Bolton and Hibs, respectively. They are both out of contract in next summer. Kind of get both of your opinions on this, actually. What are your reflections of their time at Middlesbrough? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a case of two players that I think definitely offer certain qualities that just don't fit the club and I guess the system and the manager. I think with Marcus Forss, there's definitely a great player there. He proved that in the early days of Michael Carrick. I think he is a fantastic finisher and proved that I think he was brought in as a 9, but was moved out to the right and did look good there. He looked very effective there and a real goal threat from there. But he's just became a victim, I think, especially in recent seasons, of both injuries and a change in manager. There was nowhere he was going to fit in Rob Edwards' system. I went to most of the pre-season friendlies and you could just tell he just didn't really suit the number 9 and what Rob Edwards was asking from him in that position. And obviously we don't play with wingers anymore. So it was clear, I think, early days that his days at Boro were numbered. He was one of the as was Barlasser, one of the 4 or 5 players that played at Hartlepool on that night, which was quite telling. So it's a shame, but I think going to Bolton's an interesting move. I think if he stays fully fit and plays to his full potential, I think he'll be an absolute top striker in League One. So I think they've got a really good player for that level. And the same with Dan Barlasser. I know he gets a lot of stick from Boro fans, but he is a good player when played in the right system and in the right sort of midfield. But
agreed.
It just never materialised at Boro, did it? You know, what we ask from our midfield too, when Carrick was here and both now with Edwards, just doesn't suit Dan Barlasser and the sort of profile of midfielder he is either. So again, exactly like Force, in the right environment, at the right team, playing the right style, I don't see any reason why he can't thrive. So yeah, Tom made a good point earlier in the podcast. They are 2 players that needed to go. I think we've spoken about Boro needing to be ruthless and just getting rid of, I guess, I don't want to say deadwood, but depth players that just weren't good enough and didn't fit. And we've done that, so I wish them both all the best. But yeah, it was definitely 2 players that we needed to get rid of. So I'm glad we've managed to find them both moves. And obviously, as you say, loaned out. That's their Boro career's over now, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's a Boro fan out there who wouldn't have wanted them to work out. Ultimately, every player you sign, you want them to be good. Force, I thought, had the potential to be really good, but ultimately injuries really hampered him here. He was great in that system, that first kind of half season under Carrick, and then just kind of started getting injured more and more from there, and ultimately that's gone against him in terms of him getting a good run and a chance here. And then for Barlasser, again, I know a lot of Boro fans kind of just did not like him anyway, but yeah, we'd have loved him to have worked out. As Matt said, in the right system, he can be a good player. He proved as much at Rotherham. I'd be interested to see how he gets on in the Scottish League. He might go up there and be one of Hibs' best players. For all we know. Yeah, I, as with Matt, wish them all the best. Ultimately, the club did have to be ruthless, and it is about, as we've spoke about before, raising the floor of the team, and in terms of the depth options that you're bringing in. I suppose, who would you rather have in centre midfield, Alan Brown or Dan Barlasser if there was an injury? And I feel like that's an easy answer. So yeah, it had to be done, but ultimately it gives them both a season to show what they're all about before their contracts expire, and hopefully get themselves a good move at the end of it.
I'm really sad about both of them, that they didn't work out for Boro in the end. Although with Force, I mean, he was working out, wasn't he? And like you both alluded to, he just got his injuries. Real shame, real shame with both of them. I don't think that they're bad players. And to be honest, I kind of found the reaction to Barlas's departure a little bit distasteful. I don't think that it warrants celebrating his exit. I don't think he was that bad of a player for us. I don't think he's a bad player whatsoever. I just think, as you've said, just didn't really fit. He's not the type of player that's going to offer a lot off the ball. I think you just look at his physique, and to be honest, if a gust of wind hit Dan Barlasser, he'd be down, wouldn't he? So, like, in terms of his physical profile, probably not the best off the ball, but in terms of on the ball, when he's got space, very good in terms of that passing, that vision, threading that through ball in behind. That's the strengths of him. And unfortunately, I think we saw far too often his deficiencies, because the way that Boro set up, I feel like, I don't know what system Hibs play, but he might actually suit a midfield 3 in which another player or two can cover what Dan Barlas is just what's not within his skill set. So yeah, all the best to them. Yeah, with Force, again, just a shame that injuries absolutely finished him. But Matt, David Strellik, finally a Boro player, about 12 months in the making. Strellik was apparently desperate to join Boro, as the fans were probably desperate to see him in Boro colours. Are you excited about him?
Yes, I am. I was excited before his move, and it's always you always look at YouTube compilations, and naturally that
Oh,
just
of
shows you
course.
the best of a player, and it gets you too excited.
Yeah.
But then we saw another little mini YouTube compilation the other night when he absolutely turned Antonio Rudiger inside out and pretty much, ripped Germany's defense to shreds with an assist and a goal. Yeah, I mean, it's one of them where I'm trying not to get overly excited, but I can't help it. The lowdown you and Johnny did as well didn't help. A very good lowdown, by the way, and
Thanks.
only increased my excitement levels further. He looks an absolutely incredible attacker. I was going to say forward there, but Tom would have probably kicked me out the corner.
Striker, isn't he? He's striker. Yeah.
Striker. Don't want to say forward; it'll upset Tom. But no, yeah, I'm massively excited by him. He looks an incredibly dangerous attacker who can do a bit of everything. I think when you look at Boro's window, it's like the icing on the cake, really. He was just a fantastic addition, and his numbers in recent seasons look off the charts as well. What he's done for Bratislava. He's obviously played in Europe. He's played in the Champions League. He's scored numerous times for his country. He scored against England, I believe, as well. He just looks a really, really dangerous player who can finish really well. He can link up play really well. Yeah, if he can get up to speed, I think he could be a seriously big addition for us in the Championship and maybe beyond that as well. So, yeah, I'm trying to stay grounded with David Strellik, but I was really hoping we'd get him over the line, and we have. And it's also quite funny that Celtic were in for him and now have Kelechi Iheanacho, which I find hilarious. So, yeah, pumped for this one. I really hope he delivers on what, well, at the minute looks like a top signing. Really excited by this one.
Apparently, he didn't score against England. You probably got that from me on the lowdown. I mean, we watched that game at Playbrew. It was, I'm pretty sure it was the game where Jude Bellingham scored that overhead kick right at the end of the game. I would be so honest, that was the only thing I remember from that football match.
It's a bad game.
So there's that. So thank you to our YouTube commenter who corrected that. But yeah, very excited about him. This is a question for both of you. Out of all of the signings that Boro have made this summer, who's your favourite addition?
I'm gonna be kind of quite boring with this one. I feel like it's not the most glamorous signing, but Callum Britton. I think he was a much needed upgrade at right back. He's growing more and more into the team as every game goes by, and I think that Sheffield United game was the biggest example so far, which shows what he can do and what he can contribute to the team. I'm sure he'll continue with that, but you know, when we signed him, there was a lot of Blackburn fans saying you've signed one of the best right backs / right wing backs in the league, and so far I can't really argue with that. And yeah, to go from Dijksteel and who else did we have at right back last year? Ayling, yeah, to Callum Britton. I just think is a massive upgrade there, and it was one that the team needed, especially with this change of system.
I agree completely on Callum Britton. I think Boro have needed a right back for a few years, as you've alluded to, and the fact that we brought somebody in who I kind of see as in a similar way to when Chris Wilder signed Ryan Giles, whereby it immediately jumps out on the page as, yeah, that makes sense. That fits the way that the manager wants to play. I remember Callum Britton at Vallis Mails, Thunderball Barnsley, I'm going to call them, and him getting up and down the pitch, showing that energy, showing that attacking vigour, I think is really important within this team. And I think that we're slowly seeing him add to his performance level. The last game against Sheffield United was probably his best. In fact, yeah, it was his best game for Middlesbrough, where he was connecting really well with the likes of Luke Ayling and Morgan Whittaker on the inside of him. Really good signing, really necessary signing, and dare I say, the perfect fit for the way that Rob Edwards wants to play. I'm also obviously excited about David Strellik, and just another push for the lowdown that me and Johnny did on him. You'll catch a lot more of my thoughts on him in that. I also do want to shout out the signing of Alan Brown, which has gone under the radar. He's somebody that has racked up many appearances in the Football League, in the Championship. He's captained Preston. I think those types of signings are really important. And looking at deadline day, I really wanted to see us sign a centre midfielder just to give that little bit of probably dependability behind the likes of Hayden and Hayden, because with Kante, he's a new player to this league. He's a young player. I think this will be the season of adaptation for him, settling into English football and England as a country. So to have Alan Brown, your tried and tested player, I think that is a really important signing. It's not my favourite, obviously. As I mentioned, Britain and Strellik probably take that, but I do want to still mention it because I think that type of signing is really good, along with the likes of Jones, Britain, and Matt Target. Matt, what about you? Favourite signing of the window?
Yeah, I feel like a Strellik or a Nipan or a Malander are the easy answers, and we spoke about quite a few of them already. I actually did note down Alan Brown as my favourite, just because
Are we copying notes again?
we very well might be. I was buzzing with that on deadline day. Really, really happy with that signing. I think of all the places in the team where we needed to raise the floor, midfield was a big one. And I mean, the drop off behind Hackney and Morris is always going to be, quite a big one because they're just that good. But I think in terms of a backup midfielder who is reliable, because I think he played upwards of 40 games a season for Preston for I don't know how many years before he obviously went to Sunderland last season. So he's someone who you can rely on, who can stay fit, who can hopefully always be available. But I think also at 30, he's not old in terms of football age, but he's also very experienced at the same time. So I think he's at that perfect time to come in and give us something different. And as I said, he raises the floor, but behind the pair of them. And from what I've heard I've seen written by journals, he seems like a very versatile sort of Swiss Army knife type of midfielder. He can play as a 6 and 8. I think I even heard he could play right back. Like, he just seems like he's the sort of utility player who can slot in everywhere and do a job and be really, really reliable. So to have him behind Hackney and Morris just makes me feel a lot more reassured that, God forbid, if something happened to one or both of them, we've got an option there that I can depend on and feel very comfortable with. So that was the sort of deadline day loan signing, exactly like you said, I really wanted to see. So I'm really, really happy with that addition in terms of just Boro's squad as a whole.
Right, let's look at the squad depth then for Boro post-summer transfer window. I'm going to whittle through all of the options that Rob Edwards has at his disposal. So we'll start off with the goalkeepers. We've got Sol Bryn, and then underneath him, there's Senny Dieng and John McLaughlin as the number 2 and number 3, respectively. In terms of centre-backs, we've got Jones, Fry, Ayling, and then Lenihan, Edmondson, and Malander as the competition options. Of course, Malander, again, will join Middlesbrough in January following the conclusion of the MLS season. In terms of the left wing back, we've got Matt Target and then Silvera and Bangura who can play there. Bangura injured at the moment. Right wing back, we've got Britain, then Ayling and Silvera can also play there. Of course, you've got arguably the best midfield two in the championship there in Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney, and then beneath them we've got Alan Brown, Kante and Nipan. The front three, we've got a lot of depth here. We've got Nipan and Whitaker that can play in those number 10 positions, as well as Hansen, McGree, Hamilton, Strellik, Bergzog, and Gilbert. Kind of forgot that Alain Gilbert existed. Poor guy hasn't got a move this window. And then the number 9, we've got Tommy Conway, of course, as the starting striker, and then David Strellik, Kalisen, and Delano Bergzog, who can also play there. What do we make of Boro's squad now that all of the business is done?
Strong. I think we are getting to the point that I really like to see, where we have 2 genuinely good options in every position. Looking at that depth chart there, it's I think especially at centre back, really happy with that. We seem to be absolutely stacked at number 10. Good options in the middle. I actually, we were talking about how did we sum up the window earlier, and I said I would have liked to have seen another wing back in. Forgot Bangura even played for us because him being injured there.
Easily
it seems to be a nice bit of like evergreen content on the depth chart. But yeah, I mean, if we can get him back fit again, having Target and Bangura as left wing back options is really good. And then you got Breton and Silvera on the other side. I think this is the strongest our squad has been in terms of depth in quite a while.
Yeah, I'd sort of agree. I'm very, very wary of falling into the same trap I did last summer, which was get very excited by Borough's squad and then was inevitably sort of underachieved. But I honestly have got to say, I think the depth is just, it's taken a step up compared to where we were. As I alluded to earlier, I think only maybe goalkeeper is the area where, and maybe wing back where, a couple of injuries, we could be a little bit light there. But I agree with Tom. I think having two players in every position is so important. Centre back, really, really happy. I think just seeing Hayden Hackney's name again there is fantastic. And Nipan in behind him, I mean, brilliant. And then Brown behind Morris. And then, yeah, when you look at the tens, you don't quite realise how many options we've got. I mean, we've not even spoken about Riley McGree, who I still believe, when fit, if stays fit, can be a top player in that position. And as we said earlier, they all offer something a little bit different, I think, depending on the game or the opposition or what we need at that specific time. And one big thing that I liked, a very small window last season, was when we had Conway and Latilath to choose from. I think at that stage of the season, it was when we hit that very brief purple patch where we were scoring for fun, and we had both of them as great options. And obviously, it didn't last. But to see our forward line, Conway, Strellik, being them two competing for 9, and then you haven't even discussed Cali Senu, as we've said, it just looks like a really exciting option, a bit of a raw one, but certainly I think can make a real impact. It is probably the strongest our squad has looked for I don't know how long, and if they can all stay fit, it does make you wonder what the potential of this squad now can be, especially if the players who've come in who maybe don't have that championship experience can adapt. So try not to get too carried away, but looking at that squad depth, it does very much excite me. The options that we've got now, it looks like a very, very good competitive squad.
It's easy to get excited about what you see on paper, and I tell you what, the squad that we've got out there right now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If not, I've whittled through all of it. In terms of the starting squad, we've got Bryn, Jones, Fry, Ayling, Target, Britton, Morris, Hackney, Nipan, Whittaker, Conway. I would love to see, instead of Whittaker, probably Strellik. I think that him behind Conway and beside Nipan could be a really good blend there, because you've got a bit of a hybrid of a number 8 and a number 10 there with Nipan. And then you've got a hybrid of a number 10 and a number 9 there with Strellik. And then you've got the number 9 in Conway. It's on paper again. I have to stress that it's on paper. I think that could be a really good trio, and I'm very excited about it. Very, very excited. For a starting 11, I really like that. I really do. Rob Edwards playing Ayling as a right-sided centre back, really good decision straight off the bat. I would probably have a few question marks over right wing back, just in case Britton gets injured. One of the things that Blackburn fans did say is that Britton has been injured a couple of times, quite a few times in his Blackburn career. But to be fair, we're getting through till January, aren't we? That's all we need to do. And then we can maybe bring in a right wing back in January as well for better quality of depth there. But we're getting through the next, 4 months, is it? Or however it is, long it is until January. So I think we're fine there, honestly. We're pretty fine. I like it. I really like the blend of the squad, the options that we have, the quality. I'm just hoping that this plays well, because it looks good. Will it actually be good when it takes the pitch? I certainly hope so. This is a very good squad. One that I think I've wanted us to have, the type of squad that I've wanted us to have, and I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen so far, I've pretty much I'm already sold on us defensively, and I do feel like just the way Rob Edwards is setting us up, paired with the individuals we have, and then the back three, I am very confident that we'll be good defensively. And I think when you've got that midfield too, you've always got a chance in the game, because they are the best in the league. The only question mark I had was, will it click at the top of the pitch? And that will, I think, prove to be the difference, because I think the foundations we've laid out will give us a chance in most games. And now I look at the forward line and I think, wow, if that clicks, what has this squad not got? I think is the question, because as you said, Nipan, if he can come good and hit the potential we all believe he has, if Strellik adapts with Conway there as well, there's no reason why that front three can't score a ton of goals as well. So if you pair that with what we've seen so far already, the proof is there. This is a team that can defend well and manage games. There is the potential there for the blend of what I think is a successful team, one that defends well, sees out games and scores goals. I think it's just a case of knitting that front three together. And the front three you mentioned, D, I think is very, very exciting as well. So, yeah, trying to calm down. But yeah, it is, from what we've seen so far and the potential of what we can see at the top of the pitch, it does bode well, doesn't it?
I'm just thinking as you're talking there about essentially how we were set up when we recorded our season preview podcast, when we'd only signed Alfie Jones and that was it. And Britton was on his way. I think he was an imminent signing, but he hadn't been confirmed yet. And we're looking and we're thinking, we look so underprepared here. We've got so many parts of this squad that need to be fleshed out, that need additions. And just look at the squad now. It's brilliant. And I've said it twice, I'll say it for the third time. Massive credit to the recruitment team, because there were definitely some criticisms of them during the summer window because the business wasn't being done, and we went a long time without having a sign-in from Jones to Kante, I think it was. And honestly, it shaped a lot of the opinion going into the season. A lot of fans, not just ourselves on the preview pod, were very down on Boro's chances, because we just looked a million miles away from having a squad that people could believe in to challenge. Now I think we do have a squad that is capable of challenging, and I'm so excited to see how we progress from here on in. Okay, so we did a survey before the season started, before a ball was kicked, to ask Boro fans basically where they thought Boro would finish this season. We got a decent amount of responses to this, and honestly, it was a big mix. The most common answer was 12th place, which received 18% of the votes. 65% of voters predicted Boro to finish mid-table between 7th and 15th. 23% of voters thought we'd finish in the top 6. Only 4 people predicted Boro to finish in the top 2. And then comes the poll that finished the transfer window, and the results are so unbelievably different. So in this one, the most common answer as to where Boro will finish this season was 4th place. Remember, the one that we put out there before a ball was kicked, the most common answer was 12th. 4th place received 25.5% of the votes here. 94.3% of voters thought we'd finish in the top 6, which is way up on the 23% in pre-season, and 39% of voters said automatic promotion, which was up from the measly 2.9% before a ball was kicked. So if you ever want to see how a transfer window can change what fans think of their team's prospects, there we have it. A huge difference there between the two of them. Now, I've already alluded a little bit to our season preview podcast. We were very downtrodden on Boro's chances in that, but thankfully, this podcast gives us an opportunity to either stick or twist with our pre-season predictions. So our predictions from the season preview pod, Matt, we said 12th. So me and Matt both said that Boro will finish 12th this season. Johnny, bless him, said 15th. And Tom, you were actually the most optimistic out of all of us. You said either 9th or 10th. Do you stick or twist with your pre-season predictions? Matt, I'm going to start with you. Stick or twist?
Oh, I'm going to twist, Dana. I'm going to twist.
He's going to twist. We're locking it in.
I think most fans rightfully should sort of trend upwards with their predictions. I'd be very shocked if anyone trended down. But I'm still, and again, this is just the Boro fan in me, I'm going to underpredict in hope that we over-deliver, because, as I say, you can't be disappointed if you lower your expectations. For that reason, I've gone from 12th to 7th, just because I'm not predicting us to finish in the playoffs, because Then if we don't, I won't be disappointed. If we do, I'm going to be over the moon. What I will say is I thought pre-season we looked a very mid-table team. As we said, a team that could be anything, but I thought a mid-table team doesn't look like it's going to challenge for the playoffs. And I could have probably named 8, 9, 10 teams who I thought looked stronger than what we did. I guess the best barometer to measure Boro on at the minute is now I look at the league table and I can probably only find 5 or 6 who I think look as strong, if not stronger. I still think the parachute teams will come good. I would not sleep on them at all. I think they've just had a slow start. They will come good. I don't think they'll be a 100-point team this season. I do think the gap will be low, but I still think they'll come good. I still think they'll kick on. And so I look at the 3 who've come down. Sheffield United, I think it depends on what they do with their manager. That could be 4 teams who might compete with us. I think Coventry will be probably above us. So I guess I'm looking at Boro being a team that can compete for the tail end of the playoffs. But again, I'm going to predict just beneath that because I don't want to be burnt again, as I have done how many times. And let's be honest, how many times have we predicted Boro to finish in the playoffs in the last decade? And we haven't. It's like 2 in 8 seasons, I think. So I think it's always wary of just being on the side of caution. Plus, it is only 4 games in, and we've not seen how this team will react to a setback yet. So I'm going to just, on the side of caution and to prevent being burnt by Boro again, I'm going to say 7th. But I do think we now are, without doubt, a genuine playoff contender.
So Matt is twisting on his prediction. He's gone for 7th. Tom, do you stick or twist? I feel like I need some suspenseful like background music here.
I'm going to twist as well. And I'm, like Matt, also going to kind of under-predict. I take that back as well because I'm so wary here of angering the football gods that I'm just going to say that we're going to finish anywhere between 4th and 6th. Like I said earlier, I'm really excited about this squad now. I think it's the strongest it's looked in quite a while, and this probably isn't where I hope we can finish, and it isn't where, I hope that the strength of the team is going to show when, we come back after the international window and start playing again. I'm just very wary that I don't want to jinx us. And like Matt, I've been burned far too many times before. So yeah, I'm going between 4th and 6th.
Yeah, so 2 twists there. I mean, no one's been as burned by a prediction as probably Tom predicting, Matt predicting Luton to get promoted and then they got relegated. And also, I did predict Boro to finish 2nd. You're welcome. I predicted Boro to finish 2nd in 22-23, and someone on TikTok will not let that go and keeps laughing at me for it. So that thanks to that person. But yeah, I mean, again, like with our season preview, like when we post snippets and stuff, I think a lot of people can strip it from its context and its nuance. When we recorded that, again, we'd only signed 1 player. We'd come off the back of a preseason campaign in which Boro had not won a game, and we'd also seen some second half collapses, a real spotlight on Boro's squad depth, and not a particularly good spotlight either. And generally speaking, the mood was pretty glum. And I think, to be honest, we probably echoed or mirrored the general opinion on Boro in our season preview show, depending on who you speak to, of course. But I was seeing a lot of just downtrodden Boro fans at that time. Now, obviously, it's always subject to change, and we've never had the benefit of a show like this to basically, I don't know, change our opinions and stuff. So this is the blessing of this transfer show, I guess. I think in terms of myself, am I going to stick or twist? I am going to twist. And Matt, we are the same person. I'm going to go with 7th. I think that although things are going well, much like you, I want to see how Boro respond to a setback. And Boro have been set back with the Doncaster defeat, but specifically, I want to see how Boro respond to going a goal down, for example. I want to see how Boro respond to injuries. I want to see how Boro respond to potentially coming up against a pretty compact team and a low block. There were problems last season. So I want to see, effectively, are Boro still good despite these things? Because we'll come up against teams that are going to frustrate us. How can we deal with that? How do we respond? How can we adjust? So I think that'll probably be, once we get over that and we get out on the other side and we're all fine and dandy, that's when I'll know how good this Middlesbrough team is. It's been a brilliant start, but that's all it is. Nothing is won or lost in August or September or October or November. I think we will tail off, but I don't know. I'm going to land on 7th, but the potential that we could get 6th as well. We might sneak it, but I'm going to err on the side of caution as well. Surely everything can't be as good as we're suggesting it to be, because we support Middlesbrough Football Club, for God's sake. But you will notice that Johnny's not on this episode. He's been a very, very busy person recently, but we did manage to catch whether he wants to stick or twist. So, Johnny, are you going to stick or are you going to twist?
So I am twisting. I'm moving away from my 15th prediction to 8th to 10th for the remainder of the season. My 15th prediction was based on Hackney leaving. It was also based on Rav leaving as well as Azaz, and who were all linked at that point to leave the club when we were making those predictions. So you could probably sense why I was a bit concerned or had a lot of question marks around that and who we'd bring in terms of quality to try and replace that. And I still think there's a lot of question marks that still need to be answered. Will Hackney stay for the full season because he's so pivotal in how we play? Additionally to that as well, how will the likes of Strellik and Senna and Nipan actually adapt over time, and how games have, once they've got more games on them, will they regress or will they continue to thrive? And then additionally as well, how will teams react to Middlesbrough's start? Because teams will change. Teams will maybe occupy the central areas, start to pin the fullbacks back a lot more. They might start playing long ball because Middlesbrough aren't pacey in defence. So how will Boro react in those moments? I really feel like I need to see that over a prolonged period of time. I think after 10 to 15 games, we'll get a really good understanding of where Middlesbrough will be coming into the season. It's been a fantastic start. It's still a lot more question marks needed. But for me, 8th to 10th, still a lot of question marks. But I feel the optimism from Boro fans over the last few weeks, and who wouldn't be optimistic? Top of the league, only conceded 1 goal, but there's still more question marks. I feel like I need to see answered over the next few weeks for me to see Boro as a playoff team. So I'm going to go and hide for another few weeks, guys. So I'm going to leave it back to you and enjoy the rest of the pod.
Thanks for that, Johnny. So just to recap on all of our stick or twists, we've all twisted, of course. Matt, you've gone for 7th now. Tom, you've gone for 4th to 6th. I've gone 6th or 7th. And then Johnny is still on the side of, I don't know, he's got more questions that he wants to be answered by Boro. So he's gone 8th to 10th. Let us know if you're listening or watching where you think Boro will finish this season and what you've made of the transfer window as well. We will wrap things up there then. It is Preston next for the Boro, and we'll be discussing that next Sunday. But until then, take care and up the Boro Breakdown.